I smashed the car window with a stone and saved my uncle who had fallen into the river while driving. But my uncle blamed me for accidentally scratching his car body when smashing the window and asked my family to compensate him with 200 yuan for car repairs. Grandma was even more astonishing. It's a matter of being able to escape by opening the door. Who told you to be so meddlesome and smash the window? I think your family should compensate your uncle with a new car. My mom immediately retorted to my uncle. If it weren't for Zoey saving you when you drown, it doesn't matter if you burn hundreds of cars for you, let alone 200 yuan. After the claim was rejected, my uncle was furious and drove a truck and crashed my family and car into the river. If you don't compensate, then I'll let you also taste what it's like to have your car damaged. My parents died tragically. I was in emergency treatment in the hospital, but Grandma gave all my life-saving money to my uncle. Even if your parents die, the car that should be compensated still has to be compensated. When I died with hatred on the hospital bed, my uncle happily picked up a new car at the Ford store. Opening my eyes again, facing the car sinking rapidly in the river. This time, I want to see how my unconscious uncle can escape by opening the car door. When I was awakened by the loud noise of my uncle falling into the river while driving, as soon as I opened my eyes, I saw the car rush to the middle of the river. The river water was devouring my uncle's car body at an astonishing speed. The water seeping into the compartment also flooded most of the seats in an instant. But even though his legs were soaked in the water, my uncle on the driver's seat still remained motionless, lying on the airbag, without rescue. My unconscious uncle will sink to the bottom of the river with the car within 5 minutes. In my previous life, seeing this situation, without thinking, I picked up a stone on the bridge and smashed it towards the car window of the fallen car. Just because I know that once a vehicle falls into the water, the car windows and doors will not be able to be opened. To escape, the car window must be broken in the first place. But unexpectedly, this common-sense move brought a disaster to my family of 3. After my uncle successfully escaped through the car window I smashed, he didn't say a word of thanks. Instead, he blamed me for not aiming properly when smashing the car window and leaving 3 shallow pits the size of coins on his car body. I explained to him that it was because the car was constantly floating in the river that I accidentally hit the car body. But he just wouldn't let it go and asked my parents for car repair fees. My newly bought BMW was smashed by your daughter. Brothers, settle accounts clearly. You have to compensate me 200 yuan. My parents said that this was my uncle's ingratitude. But my uncle felt that without me, he could also be rescued. There are so many ways to escape. Who said you have to escape through the car window? Maybe if someone else saves me, I don't even need to smash the car window. It's your daughter who insists on being smart and destroying my car window. It makes me have to spend an extra 10 yuan to repair the car window. I'm already being very kind. Otherwise, you have to compensate me for the money for this car window too. Hearing that repairing the car window would cost my uncle more money, Grandma scolded me. You dead girl is just meddlesome. It's a matter of being able to escape by opening the door. Who told you to smash the car? Then Grandma asked my mom to compensate my uncle with a new car. Your younger brother's good car was smashed by your daughter and is full of holes. If you dare not compensate, I will pretend I don't have you as a child from now on. 2. In the past, my mother always complied with my uncle and grandma's requests. But this time, looking at the 2 people who were becoming more and more greedy, Mother suddenly realized and firmly refused to compensate. Zoey didn't do anything wrong. We will not pay a penny for this. After the claim was rejected, my uncle locked the door and planned to take the money by force. This behavior completely angered my parents. So they warned my uncle that if he didn't let us go again, they would call the police and report that my uncle fell into the river while driving drunk. They would also sue and ask my uncle to return the more than 100 yuan he had borrowed from my family over the years. Seeing my parents mention the police, my uncle reluctantly let us leave. But as soon as we drove to the nearby bridge, My uncle chased after us again and a truck had overturned our car into the river. It's okay if you don't compensate. Then I'll let you also taste what it's like to have your car damaged. My parents drowned on the spot. And I had severe brain damage and was sent to the ICU for emergency treatment. After learning the news, my parents' friends and companies urgently sent money to the hospital. Grandma promised them that she would do her best to treat me. But as soon as she turned around, she signed the consent form to give up rescue. She gave the money to my uncle to buy a car. She also cremated my parents and lied to the outside world that my parents fell into the river while driving drunk. When I was in extreme pain on the hospital bed, Grandma was still comforting my uncle. Don't blame yourself. Their deaths have nothing to do with you. If you want to blame them for doing too many bad things. Look, also driving into the river. You are fine and nothing happened. But their family died completely. What is this if it's not retribution? What a retribution. Thinking of this, I clenched my fist tightly. I hope that when Grandma sees my uncle's body in this life, she can still lightly say that it's retribution. The loud noise of the car falling into the river naturally attracted the attention of the villagers. But it was almost a minute before someone tremblingly walked to the river. Immediately, several old voices rang out. Did I hear wrong? It seems that a car has fallen into the water. Let me put on my reading glasses and take a look. Oh, there really is a car. We have to call the police. Huh? Where did I put my cell phone? Seeing the old men and women slowly looking for their mobile phones on their bodies one by one, I almost laughed out loud. In my previous life, when my uncle woke up on the shore, the police and the fire department had arrived. Only then did he think that many people could rescue him. Little did he know that the reason why it was my turn, a child, to smash the car window to save him in the previous life was because the people who arrived at the riverbank for the first time were all old people and children who were still wearing crockless pants. 3 in the village were grandma lives. Almost all the young and middle-aged people have gone to work in other places. The village is full of elderly people and children who stay at home. Although there are many of these people, basically none of them have the ability to rescue my uncle. Looking at the elderly and children on the riverbank gathering more and more, I squinted my eyes and stared carefully at the crowd. Soon the person I was expecting appeared. Grandma nimbly squeezed to the front among a group of old ladies. She stretched her neck and looked towards the center of the river. I also quickly pricked up my ears and waited for Grandma's reaction. But I never expected that after Grandma saw the car in the river clearly, she put her hands on her hips and laughed. You deserve it. Dare to drive so fast in the village. Drown, you bastard. Now I was stunned. The onlookers were also stunned. Richard's mother. Why are you talking like this? Does the person in this car have a grudge against you? Yes. Do you recognize this car? Seeing that the nearby villagers didn't recognize the car in the river, I immediately remembered that my uncle had been saying in the previous life that this was his newly bought BMW. At that time, I thought it was because he had just bought it not long ago. But now it seems that this is the first time my uncle drove this car back to the village. So much so that even Grandma, his own mother, didn't know that the car in the river was her son's car. Grandma said angrily to the villagers, I don't recognize it. But this car almost hit me on the road just now. If I hadn't dodged quickly, I wouldn't be alive here talking to you now. Grandma pointed at herself. Look! To avoid him, I rolled on the ground. Look what happened to my clothes. Grandma was wearing a new dress that my mom brought back today when she went out. It was originally a light blue jacket. Now it is covered with dirt. At first glance, it almost looks like brown. Looking at Grandma's clothes, I slapped my head and remembered another thing. In my previous life, after my uncle woke up, he also said that he was going to find an old lady in blue clothes to settle accounts. He said that the reason why he drove into the river was all because when he was about to pass by, the old lady suddenly rushed in front of his car and scared him so much that he drove the car into the river. Unexpectedly. Really unexpected. It turns out that the person my uncle almost hit was Grandma. In my previous life, I was only focused on saving people and missed all the good shows on the shore. I became more and more curious about what expression Grandma would have when she saw that the person in the car was my uncle. Somehow, after hearing about such a big thing that Grandma was almost hit by a car, none of the old people watching responded to her. Another minute or so passed in a flash. The children around ran around for a long time before finally calling out to middle-aged people. As soon as they saw a car in the river, they immediately discussed how to rescue it and asked the old people, "Has the police call been made? Call 110, 112, and 119. Take pictures quickly and post them in the village group to let everyone recognize whose car this is. Call their family members quickly. Does anyone have something handy? We have to smash the car window first later." For seeing someone in charge, the old people finally had a backbone and cooperated one after another. Some took pictures, some made calls, and several people went home with crutches and rummaged through their boxes. Seeing that the villagers ignored her, but regarded the words of others as imperial edicts, Grandma tried to find a sense of existence very unpleasantly. "Look how anxious you are. When the corpse is fished up later, it's not too late to let his family members come and recognize it." Grandma is usually sharp-tongued. This time, because she was almost hit, she started the curse mode. "Richard's mother. This person is not dead yet. You should be more virtuous. Yes. Yes. This has to be saved." Grandma got excited and debated with everyone. "Driving like this. Even if he doesn't drown today, he will definitely have an accident again sooner or later. He didn't hit me this time. What if he hits someone else in the future? Aren't you saving a murderer?" I don't know what others feel after hearing this. But anyway, I broke out in a cold sweat when I heard it. But now the villagers are much busier than me. An onlooker. They simply don't have time to debate with Grandma. The two middle-aged people have taken off all their clothes and jumped into the water. The old people also took the things they found and handed them to them. "Look. Is this okay for smashing the car window? This is a swimming ring. Take it with you. It's safer." Among the busy crowd, only Grandma is as idle as me. She sat down on the stone bench on the shore, crossed her legs and poured cold water on the people in the water. "Oh, you are really not afraid of death. So many people have drowned in this river. You dare to go into the water. Aren't you afraid that you won't be able to save anyone and will be caught in turn?" This sentence made several junior high school students who wanted to go into the water to help later also hesitate a bit. After all, this river has a swift current and sometimes there are whirlpools. Once people are swept in, they won't come out. And now it is the 7th month of the lunar calendar. As soon as the word "catching a substitute" came out, the superstitious old people were even more reluctant to let their grandchildren go into the river. Go home. This is not something you can go down and save." Seeing Grandma's interference making some people dare not go to save, Grandma Lillian from the east end of the village couldn't bear it anymore. "Stop talking. Okay. This is a human life. Are you just going to watch him drown? Your Richard usually drives too. If this happens to him in the future, do you hope that everyone will stand by and do nothing?" After hearing this, Grandma was so anxious that she jumped 3 feet high and rushed up to grab Grandma Lillian's hair. "Old woman, you dared to curse my Richard to drown? Believe it or not, I'll throw you into the river right now." Grandma Lillian's son is one of the middle-aged people who just entered the water. He had already swum 2 meters. When he heard the shouts from behind, he looked back and saw Grandma pulling his mother and pushing her into the water. He had to turn around urgently and return to the shore. Seeing the person who went into the water come back ashore again, those who were planning to go into the water also stopped their actions. "What's wrong? Is there something in the water?" This made people's enthusiasm for saving people subside a lot. 5 When people were united to save people, it was a kind of spirit that made people work together. In my previous life, when I threw stones on the bridge, people on the shore also saw it. At that time, many people cheered me on. The shouts and cheers were mixed together. which had extremely inspiring power. When people see a child working so hard to save people, as adults, they are even more reluctant to fall behind. That's why they all swam towards my uncle's car with full concentration. Especially after seeing me smash the car window and my uncle wake up from a coma and escape from the car. They accelerated and swam to the side of the car and caught my uncle who couldn't swim. After all, when a living life needs help in front of you, it's hard for you to hesitate at all. But at this moment, without my smashing the car window to lead the way, and with Grandma spreading panic, my uncle still lay motionless in the car. Many people started to back out. I think this person seems to be dead already. Otherwise, let's not go over there. Some people were afraid and said, there is a black shadow in the river. Seeing this scene, I wanted to applaud Grandma. Originally, I was already planning that if these people really swam fast, what should I do to stop them? But now it seems that the little chance of survival left for my uncle has been blocked by Grandma 7 or 8 times. Looking down again, the water in that BMW has already reached my uncle's waist. The entire car, most of the front of the car has also plunged into the water. The rear of the car is getting higher and higher. It's a bit like the stern of the Titanic when it was sinking. But Grandma on the shore still didn't realize that her son was about to die. She was still battling with others there, and her fingers were almost poking at Grandma Lillian's son's face. You dared to touch me with one finger. When my Richard comes, he will beat you to death. My uncle steals chickens and teases dogs in the village when he has nothing to do. He is the kind of person who is not scary. But once you get involved with him, he is very annoying. So when hearing my uncle's name, Grandma Lillian was still a little afraid. But before she could pull her son back, she was suddenly pushed by a child who played a dirty trick. The whole person fell to the ground. Old woman. You dare to quarrel with my grandma. Later when my dad comes, he will jack the big BMW and run you over. The owner of the little black hand is my uncle's son Tyler. After pushing Grandma Lillian, he scurried behind Grandma. Grandma's eyes lit up when she saw her grandson. Good grandson. What did you say just now? What did your dad doctor back? 6 Tyler proudly said loudly, BMW. Grandma. My dad called and said he was driving a BMW looking for you in the village. He wants to pick you up and take you for a ride in a BMW. Grandma was overjoyed. Old woman. You still curse my son to have an accident. Unexpectedly. My son drives a BMW. Are you jealous? Are you envious? You and your useless son will never be able to ride in a BMW in your life. After saying that, Grandma casually took Tyler. Let's go. Good grandson. Wait for your dad on the road. Let's stay away from these people so as not to be affected by bad luck. On the other side, the only middle-aged person still in the water in the river swam near the car. After seeing the appearance of the car more closely, the person shouted to the shore, "This is a BMW X1. People on the shore discussed. BMW? I haven't heard of anyone in our village having a BMW. Someone reminded in a low voice, didn't Grandma Guo's grandson just say that his dad drove a BMW back? Hearing this, Grandma, who was about to leave, paused. Tyler, my uncle's son, also noticed something was wrong. Grandma, Dad is not answering the phone. Tyler was swiping left and right on his phone. Suddenly, he seemed to see something terrifying. His hands loosened, and the phone fell to the ground with a snap. The phone screen cracked. But Tyler, who usually cherishes his phone, still stood there motionless, just repeating, Grandma, Grandma, BMW, BMW, Dad's BMW. Grandma grabbed Tyler's shoulders. Good grandson. What's wrong with you? Tyler stammered. Dad on the phone. The car is the same as the one in the river. Hearing this, Grandma quickly picked up the phone on the ground like an eagle's claw. There was clearly my uncle's latest circle of friends on it. It was a 9-square grid circle of friends with the caption, New car on the road. Smooth sailing. The photos showed the appearance of the BMW X1 from 8 different angles. In the center was a group photo of my uncle and the BMW. Grandma looked at the pictures of the BMW. The more she looked, the more her hands trembled. While Grandma was staring blankly, Tyler ran to steps in the direction of the river. He was tricked by a stone on the way and knelt on the ground. Looking up again, his face was full of tears. "Dad, wake up quickly. Dad." The next moment, I didn't even see a shadow. I just heard a plop. When I opened my eyes again, Grandma was in the river. Grandma was struggling in the muddy river water and shouting hysterically, "Son! My son!" Seeing this, the old people around had to instruct their grandchildren to go into the water quickly and pull Grandma. 2 yellow-haired teenagers, who were older, had to jump into the water reluctantly and pull Grandma. 7 The old people also persuaded on the shore. "Don't. You are so old. You can't swim over there." But Grandma slapped each of the little yellow-haired ones. "Why are you pulling me? Go save my son. You are all stronger than me. An old woman. You go save people." While saying this, Grandma also pushed the stunned little yellow-haired one into the deep water. "What are you standing there for? If you don't save people, when you go to the underworld, you will be put in a frying pan." The place near the shore was originally slippery. Pushed by Grandma like this, the 2 little yellow-haired ones slid into the deep water. One of the yellow-haired ones obviously couldn't swim. As soon as his feet couldn't touch the bottom, his body was floating up and down in the water. Immediately, he choked on several mouthfuls of water. Fortunately, someone nearby was quick-eyed and pulled him back to the shallow water. As soon as he was out of danger, that yellow-haired punk with a mohawk rushed towards Grandma with a black face. "Stinky old woman. I fucking can't swim. I won't save your grandma's leg. You want to kill me, right? Just now you said not to let people save. Now that you find out it's your son, you want others to risk their lives to save. I think you are taking off your pants and hanging yourself. You are shameless. I must let you try the taste of choking on water." Saying that, the yellow-haired one was about to press Grandma into the water. Grandma was so scared that she screamed. Like a monkey, she jumped back to the shore from the water. Seeing that the yellow-haired one was not easy to mess with, Grandma had to find someone else to save my uncle. Her eyes swept around on the shore. The young ones were young. The old ones were old. Those who were slightly of the right age were also skinny. Let alone saving people. It was even painful to pull someone. Finally, Grandma put her eyes back on Grandma Lillian's son. "Thomas, you can swim. Go and save my son quickly." Grandma Lillian's son. I usually call him Uncle Thomas. If I remember correctly, in my previous life, the person who finally brought my uncle to the shore was Uncle Thomas. Uncle Thomas is very good at swimming, and also knows rescue skills. In my previous life, when my uncle who couldn't swim was pushing another person into the water, it was also him who knocked my uncle unconscious in time and resolved the crisis before bringing people back to the shore successfully. But Uncle Thomas was obviously also angry now. I, such a useless person, dare not touch your son's big BMW. This counterattack made Grandma's face turn purple. Grandma reacted quickly and immediately grabbed Grandma Lillian, who was always kind-hearted. "Old sister, I was just dizzy just now. Can't I apologize to you? Please ask your Thomas to save my son. Aren't you usually the best person?" Tyler also hugged Grandma Lillian's leg. "Please save my dad. I was wrong. I shouldn't have pushed you just now." After learning that the person in imminent danger in the river was my uncle, Grandma Lillian lost her previous decisiveness. She opened her mouth and asked Grandma, "Can you guarantee that you won't cause trouble at my house later? That is, no matter whether my son saves your son today or not. You can't find trouble with my family for any reason." I was a little surprised by Grandma Lillian's sudden question, but I didn't have time to think about it carefully. Grandma immediately agreed to Grandma Lillian's request and raised 3 fingers. "I swear, I will definitely not cause trouble for your family in the future. Only after getting the guarantee did Grandma Lillian say to Uncle Thomas, "You go and try. Do your best. No matter what. We have a clear conscience." Watching Uncle Thomas jump into the water, Grandma started bossing people around on the shore again. "Hurry up and prepare some towels or something. Later, when my son comes ashore, be careful not to let him catch a cold." Grandma obviously thought the current situation was too optimistic. After the delay just now, my uncle's car head has been completely submerged. At present, only the back half of the car is still on the water surface. I can still see my uncle's situation through the skylight on the bridge. The water has reached his chest. The middle-aged man who went into the water before finally broke through the rapids and successfully swam to my uncle's car. But embarrassingly, this person didn't bring any tools. Originally, he swam to the side of the car to see the situation first, and waited for Uncle Thomas to find the right tool and then send it over. But when he swam back and looked, he found that there was no one behind him. Empty-handed. He had to pat the car window to try to wake up my uncle in the car. It may be the sound of patting the glass, combined with the discomfort brought by the water flooding his chest. My uncle woke up. I first saw his back move, and then my uncle suddenly raised his body from the steering wheel. As soon as he woke up, my uncle panicked and turned his head left and right. It was exactly like Jackie Chan looking for an escape route in a kung fu movie. Finding himself in the water, my uncle first slapped himself twice on the face, as if to confirm whether he was dreaming. As soon as the person outside the car saw that my uncle woke up, he immediately shouted towards the shore at the top of his lungs, "The person is not dead. Come quickly. Otherwise, it will be too late. Bring something." There is nothing to smash the glass. There were more people on the shore. It seemed that someone had called the village chief. Under the arrangement of the village chief, 2 more people went into the water on the shore, and Uncle Thomas, who went into the water earlier, swam even faster. 9 who wouldn't be scared when they wake up and find that the water has reached their chest. Due to panic, my uncle tried to move without even unbuckling his seat belt. As a result, he was pulled back onto the seat. For a while, the car didn't move anymore. I guess it may be that the wheels got stuck on the stones at the bottom of the river, which made the car stable. But as soon as my uncle moved, the whole car also moved. The previously paused sinking also continued. As soon as he unbuckled his seat belt, my uncle frantically pulled the car door. Finding that the one on his side couldn't be opened, my uncle still didn't realize why it couldn't be opened. He swam to the other side and tried to open the car door again. After seeing the actions my uncle did after waking up, another stone in my heart fell to the ground. After all, in my previous life, in order to make my parents pay for the damages, my uncle firmly said that he knew very well how to escape when driving into the river. When my parents refuted Grandma that escaping was not as easy as opening the car door, my uncle also showed off his knowledge. When the compartment is filled with water, and the water pressure inside and outside the car is the same, the car door can be opened easily, and escaping at this time will not cause any other damage to the car. To be honest, if it weren't for your daughter smashing the car window, I would definitely wait until the compartment is full of water before escaping, because I am not willing to use such a low-level escape method as crawling out of the car window. Although what my uncle said was no different from being squeezed in the head by a door. But this passage also reveals a key point. That is, my uncle may know how to escape. But now looking at my uncle frantically opening the car door, it means that my uncle simply doesn't know that the car door cannot be opened due to the influence of water pressure. Then it can be inferred that what he said in the previous life were all afterthoughts made up decadent after he supplemented his escape knowledge after going ashore. I was just complaining in my heart when my uncle was trying to lower the car window with the button again. Once the vehicle is flooded, the car windows and skylights will be unusable due to power failure. After finding that the car window could not be lowered either, the panic on my uncle's face was visible to the naked eye. He had to pat the glass back and forth and try to talk to the people outside the car. Finding that the person couldn't hear clearly, my uncle suddenly looked up at the skylight. I, who had been observing my uncle through the skylight, didn't even have time to lower the corners of my mouth before I met his eyes so vividly. My uncle saw me and immediately pressed his face against the skylight. He pointed at me with his finger, seemingly expressing something. I don't understand. My uncle clenched his fist again and pounded on the skylight. His mouth shape seemed to be saying stone. I understood instantly. He had already told me that he showed stone. Then of course I can't show scissors. I stretched out 2 pieces of cloth and waved them at my uncle. 2 pieces of cloth will definitely make you lose. Men are really boys until they die. At this time, they still want to play rock paper scissors with me. But soon I couldn't laugh anymore. Uncle Thomas was indeed faster than ordinary people. In the blink of an eye, he swam to the side of the car, still holding a rather large stone in his hand. If he smashed the car window with this stone, maybe my uncle would have a chance to survive. But as a person who came back for revenge, how could I watch my uncle be rescued with my own eyes? I pretended to suddenly understand my uncle's meaning. I picked up a stone from the bridge and threw it into the river. Of course, it missed. It didn't touch the car at all. It even startled Uncle Thomas and almost made him drop the stone into the river. Seeing this scene, my uncle was furious at me in the car, looking at his small mouth that opened and closed. I could guess what he was scolding me with my toes. It's nothing more than, "Are you stupid? Or is there something wrong with your hand? Do you want to go to the hospital and have a look? You can't even throw a stone accurately." I know this so clearly because after my uncle saw that I missed in my previous life, that's what he scolded me. Remember, when someone says there is a problem with your hand, you better do something that really shows there is a problem with your hand and show it to him. I pretended to be sorry and picked up several stones and threw them into the river. But this time it was much better than last time. It slightly brushed the car glass. But I used very little force and chose small stones. It didn't cause any damage to the glass at all. Sorry, Uncle. This piece of glass costs 10 yuan. It's really too precious. I really can't bear to smash it. And the life of glass is also life. But at this moment, there are still people who want to save my uncle's life. Amidst the undulating water, as soon as Uncle Thomas stabilized his body, he took the stone and smashed it towards the only rear window, still exposed on the water. Fortunately, with the wave passing by, Uncle Thomas also missed. This time, it made a pit 3 times larger than the one I made in my previous life on the rear compartment. I couldn't help but worry. If my uncle survived, then the person he blackmailed would very likely become Uncle Thomas's family. In this case, my uncle must not be allowed to survive. Next, I pretended to smash the window even harder. I even leaned out almost half of my body outside the bridge. Since I had to use force to throw stones, I immediately lost my balance. I swayed back and forth several times, looking like I was about to fall into the river from the bridge. Seeing this, the 2 people by the car couldn't care about the car anymore. They all shouted and warned me. The people on the shore also exclaimed, "Go back! Go back quickly! Go back to the bridge!" 11 But I can't go back. From the moment I was reborn, I made up my mind that I would never let my uncle leave his car alive. Since I was reborn and came back, I didn't come to respect the fate of others. If I didn't watch all my enemies disappear, I would be sorry for the chance of rebirth given to me by heaven. So, at this moment, in order to prevent Uncle Thomas from saving my uncle, then I have to let him save someone else, for example. Save me! Amidst the exclamations of the crowd, I fell from the bridge. While falling, through the last gap of the car window, I saw my uncle's almost desperate face. He used everything he could find in the car to try to smash the car window. But the car window still stood firm there. I guess the car window may know that such a low-level escape method is simply not worthy of my uncle. Such a high-end person. At the same time as the river water pouring into the compartment engulfed my uncle's head, I also fell into the turbulent river. After a splash of water, as soon as I emerged, I screamed and struggled, looking completely unable to swim. After shouting a few times, I pretended to choke on water and faint. My hands and feet stopped moving. I let my body drift away with the river, under the current. In a blink of an eye, I drifted several meters away, looking at my uncle's car again. Only the roof was still on the water surface, facing to life-threatening rescue targets. Uncle Thomas and the kind-hearted person need to make a choice. Just in terms of difficulty. One is a person who may not be able to be rescued even with great effort. One is a person who can be rescued as long as you swim over. It is obvious who should be chosen. In essence, one is a good child who fell into the river to save people. One is a middle-aged giant baby who fell into the river while driving drunk. Who will you save? The result was not unexpected at all. Uncle Thomas and the kind-hearted person both swam in my direction. Although I pretended to be unconscious, I still remained vigilant and observed the surrounding situation. A group of villagers ran to the place where I was standing on the bridge. In my previous life, when seeing me throwing stones, some villagers also ran over to help smash the car window together. But the elderly people were slow. By the time they ran over, I had already smashed the car window and didn't need their help. The situation now is similar to that in the previous life. They still can't help much. Only the roof of my uncle's car is still on the water surface. The roof is made of iron. No matter how many people they are, they can't do anything to the car by smashing it. But strangely, I still heard the sound of stones falling into the water. Immediately after that were the shouts of the villagers. Richard's mother. The roof can't be smashed open. Don't smash it anymore. Be careful not to hit the people in the river again. 12 I immediately understood. It turned out that Grandma was smashing the car. Suddenly, there were several louder exclamations from the bridge. Stop her quickly. She's not smashing the car. She's smashing people. Damn. You want to smash your grandson? Before I could finish listening, a loud noise of a stone falling into the water came from very close to my ear. The sound was so close that I didn't dare to pretend to be unconscious anymore. I quickly opened my eyes. As soon as I opened my eyes, my pupils constricted and I felt a chill all over my body. Because a huge stone was coming straight at my face. I swam to the side at the fastest speed in my life and barely dodged that stone. But this unexpected fright still disrupted my rhythm and made me really choke on water. I coughed horribly in the water. Along with the pain in my lungs, there was also resentment. No matter how much I calculated, I never expected that this old woman would throw stones at me. When she saw that I dodged, Grandma shouted on the bridge. Look! This dead girl is not unconscious at all. She is pretending. She can even dodge the stone I threw. She is fine at all. Don't go and save her anymore. Go back and save my son. The kind-hearted person shouted back at Grandma. You crazy woman. What pretending to be unconscious? This is because she was awake and by your stone. Uncle Thomas continued to swim in my direction with his head down. Zoey, don't be afraid. Uncle Thomas will be there soon. Seeing that the two of them didn't change direction, Grandma went even crazier. This time, she directly threw a stone at Uncle Thomas. Uncle Thomas was swimming seriously. When he heard our shouts and tried to dodge, it was already a bit late. The stone grazed his back, leaving a long blood stain. Grandma also threatened Uncle Thomas. If you dare to swim over there again, I will smash you to death today. If you don't want to die, go back and save. This time, before Grandma could finish speaking, she was pulled back onto the bridge by Grandma Lillian, who rushed out from behind and grabbed her hair. My son has no credit, but also has put in effort. How dare you throw stones at him? I'll slap your face until it's swollen and count how many layers of skin you have. Amidst the slapping sounds, Grandma, who was pinned to the ground, finally had no time to cause more trouble. 13 After I was rescued back to the shore by Uncle Thomas. Less than 5 minutes later, the two people sent into the water by the village chief also came back. Although they successfully swam to my uncle's car with tools, By then the car had completely sunk into the water. They could only dive into the water and try to smash the car window and open the car door. But in the water, the visibility obstruction and the influence of the current are greater. The two of them dived several times but still couldn't open the car door successfully and were almost swept away by the rapids. Exhausted after struggling, the two were finally rescued back to the shore by the firefighters who arrived. Grandma saw that they not only returned without success but also delayed the firefighters from rescuing my uncle. In a fit of anger, she rushed at the two of them and scratched them. Die. Die. Useless things. If you can't save people, why did you go into the water? Who wouldn't be angry when being insulted and beaten by Grandma right after barely surviving? One person directly threw Grandma onto the ground with brute force. Why did I go down? Isn't it because you begged me to go? To save your son. I almost lost my life. You still dared to hit me. Believe it or not, I'll beat you to death. Grandma was already scared. Grandma Lillian, who was nearly 70 years old, beat her until her hair was messy and her mouth was bleeding. Now when she saw a man was about to hit her too, she immediately ran behind the police and sought protection. Oh, someone is going to beat someone to death. Police comrades, save me. The police symbolically stopped them. Most of their energy was currently focused on how to salvage the fallen car. Under the multi-party cooperation of the police, traffic control, and the fire department, my uncle's car was salvaged back to the shore half an hour after falling into the water. As soon as she saw the BMW come out of the water, Grandma threw herself onto the BMW and cried bitterly. Several policemen pulled Grandma away to allow the firefighters to open the car door. As soon as the car door opened, my uncle and the river water gushed out together. The river water climbed back into the river along the stones on the shore. But my uncle lay face down on the ground, motionless, like a stone on the shore. The villagers around looked at the scene with solemn expressions. Although my uncle is not a good person, the passing of a life always moves people. Seeing my uncle's body with her own eyes, Grandma stopped struggling. She seemed to have had all her bones taken away in an instant and slipped from the policeman's hands and fell to the ground. Her mouth was wide open but without making a sound. She just sat on the ground in a daze, staring straight at my uncle, not far away. In contrast to Grandma's silence, my uncle's son Tyler quickly rushed through the warning line and threw himself on the body. Dad! Wake up! Dad! Don't die! Hearing his grandsons crying, Grandma came back to life. She quickly walked to the front of my uncle's body and grabbed Tyler. This is not your dad. Your dad hasn't come back yet. Don't cry. Don't shout. Your dad isn't dead. While saying this, Grandma also pulled Tyler off my uncle's body. Go home. Follow me home. Your dad will be back in the evening. 14 Seeing this scene, my mom who hurried back pulled Grandma. Mom, your younger brother is gone. Don't be like this. But Grandma stared at my mom with bloodshot eyes. Shut your stinky mouth. If you say one more word, I will kill you first today. Speaking of killing, Grandma thought of me. Her head turned left and right in the crowd. Where is that little bitch Zoey? Where is she hiding? Just now the villagers all witnessed Grandma throwing stones at me. Now when they heard Grandma looking for me again, they all moved in front of me in unison and tried to hide me more tightly. Seeing that I couldn't be called out with a fierce stone, Grandma changed to a gentle tone. Little Zoey, where are you hiding? Come out. Are you cold after falling into the river just now? Listen to Grandma. Grandma didn't mean to hit you on purpose. But no matter how gentle the voice is, it can't cover up the overflowing malice. Grandma calling me like this reminds me of ghosts in horror movies. When they pretend to be children's relatives, they also use such a tone to deceive children to come out and kill them. Wait. Ghosts pretending to be relatives. Suddenly I remembered and had a way to make Grandma have no time to pester me anymore. My dad couldn't stand Grandma calling me like this anymore. He stood in front of Grandma. Why are you calling Zoey? Does Richard's car falling into the river have anything to do with Zoey? Even the police said it was drunk driving that killed him. But Grandma kept shaking her head. It's not drunk driving. It's not drunk driving that killed him. It's your daughter who killed him. As soon as Grandma finished shouting, there were screams in the crowd. Zoey. Zoey. What's wrong with you? Come quickly. Zoey's parents. This child is foaming at the mouth. Doctor. Doctor. Come quickly. The villagers made way for the doctor to pass in front of me. Now Grandma finally found me. Seeing me lying on the ground with foam coming out of my mouth, constantly twitching all over, and my head twisting back and forth on the ground, Grandma burst out laughing. Good. Good. You are being punished. You killed your own uncle. Heaven should send a thunderbolt to strike you to death. After shouting, Grandma spread her arms and stopped the doctor who was coming to check on me. At the same time, I suddenly stopped twitching and lay stiffly on the ground, motionless like a corpse. Sometimes stillness is scarier than movement. There was another burst of screams from the people around. A villager even approached me and stretched out his finger to feel my breath. Before he put his finger on my nose, I suddenly sat up with my eyes closed. This scared the person who was feeling my breath and jumped 3 meters away. My parents ran over and squatted on the ground to hug me. Zoey, don't scare Mom and Dad. What's wrong? This series of shocks made the villagers start discussing. This looks like that. This river is not clean. Maybe after going down once, something got attached. 15 Amidst the discussions, I slowly opened my eyes and scanned everyone in the crowd with a strange look. While looking, I mumbled with my mouth opening and closing. Not this one. Not this one. Not this one. Where is the old woman in blue clothes? Where is the old woman in blue clothes? In order to hear what I was saying clearly, Dad put his ear close to my face. Baby. Speak louder. Dad can't hear you very clearly. What old woman in blue clothes? Taking this opportunity, as if I just recognized who Dad was, I grabbed Dad's arm. Brother-in-law, you have to avenge me. It was an old woman in blue clothes who suddenly rushed in front of the car and made me doctor into the river and drown. After hearing me finish, Dad was stunned. I could feel that there was a layer of goosebumps on his arm. The people around curiously asked, Zoey's dad. What did Zoey say? Dad hesitated and looked at everyone. For some reason, Zoey suddenly called me brother-in-law. She also said that it was an old woman in blue clothes who suddenly rushed in front of the car that made him doctor into the river and drown. The villagers widened their eyes. Call you brother-in-law. Could it be that Richard has possessed Zoey? Several people who usually believe in ghosts and gods immediately talked to me. Richard. Speak more clearly. Where did you meet the old lady? We will go and check for you immediately. Yes. Yes. Say everything you have to say. After you finish speaking, you can leave in peace. Zoey is small and can't stand you tormenting her like this. This time I didn't just talk to Dad alone. I shouted loudly to everyone in a pretended deep male voice. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the main road at the entrance of the village, an old woman in a blue top. Hearing this, the village chief instructed his subordinates. Quickly obtain the surveillance at the entrance of the village this afternoon. Witnessing all this, Grandma was so surprised that she didn't know when she had let go of the doctor. Are you really Richard? My son. You have had such a hard life. What old woman in blue clothes? You tell Mom. What does she look like? Mom will go and kill her. I hugged Grandma. Mom, I'm so cold. The water in the river is so cold. Mom, I waited for so long. Why didn't anyone come to save me? Grandma hugged me even tighter. Poor child. Mom will warm you up. Mom also hates it so much. It's all these heartless people. Seeing someone in danger but not saving. Son, if you can come back, kill all of them. They all deserve to die. 16 Grandma wasn't just talking. She really started reporting the names of those people who gathered by the river today. Uncle Thomas and Grandma Lillian. the kind-hearted person who wanted to push her into the water, and so on were all on the list. This aroused public anger. "You old thing are crazy. Obviously it was you who didn't let us save. You even cursed those of us who went down to save people to drown." "Yes, Richard. It was your mom who didn't let us save you. Don't take revenge on the wrong people." Hearing this, I pushed Grandma away and faced those villagers with the fiercest expression. "You are talking nonsense. How could my mom harm me?" Then I turned to Grandma and said, "Mom, don't worry. I will definitely come back and find these people who killed me." Before I could finish speaking, my eyes stopped on Grandma's upper body. "Wait. Mom, what color is the clothes you are wearing?" The originally light blue jacket that had been soiled and looked almost brown, because of Grandma's make trouble after jumping into the water, now showed its original blue color again. Hearing me ask this, Grandma also looked down at herself in confusion. At a glance, she immediately raised her head in panic. But I still stared at the clothes and mechanically asked, "Mom, what color are the clothes you are wearing? Mom, what color are the clothes you are wearing? Mom, what color are the clothes you are wearing? Mom, what color are the clothes you are wearing?" Every time I asked, Grandma's body leaned back a little more. As the horror on her face grew stronger and stronger, Grandma's dry lips trembled. "Son." Seeing that only the word son came out of Grandma's throat after a long time, my mom said with confusion, "Isn't this clothes blue? Why are you asking so many times?" "Zoey, these clothes were still picked by you and me for Grandma together, weren't they?" The villagers also remembered. "Didn't Richard's mom say this afternoon that she was almost hit by a car?" While everyone was recalling, the village chief's subordinate ran over out of breath. "Village chief, I was just about to send you the surveillance video clip, but I accidentally sent it to the village group. I can't withdraw it. Can you tell everyone not to spread it around randomly?" 17 Hearing the news, everyone immediately opened their mobile phones. At the beginning of 1 o'clock, everyone in the village had an indescribable shock on their faces. On the surveillance video, when my uncle was driving a BMW through the section at the entrance of the village, there was an old lady walking slowly in the middle of the road with a cane. When encountering pedestrians, my uncle didn't slow down. He just honked to signal. After hearing the horn, the old lady also walked to the side of the road to make way for my uncle. But just when my uncle was about to pass by the old lady's side, the old lady suddenly swayed left and right a few times, and then smoothly fell in front of my uncle's car. Seeing the old lady lying on the road, my uncle made an emergency turn to avoid it. But the cart tires still rushed towards the old lady's head. The old lady nimbly rolled several times on the ground to avoid the car. But the car, due to excessive steering, hit the wall again. In order not to hit the wall, the BMW made another sharp turn and returned to the main road. But on the road, it was obvious that the car owner had lost control of the car. After driving in an S-shape for a while on the road, it finally rushed down the river embankment, and after Grandma rolled a few times, she stood up again and chased the car for a while. After finding that she couldn't catch up, Grandma turned around cursing and picked up her cane. The villagers present knew what happened next. After watching the video, everyone's expressions became extremely complicated. Expressions of sighing, surprise, anger, pity, etc., were all gathered at this moment. The village chief faced Grandma and sighed one after another. "Alas! Alas! Why did you? Alas!" Everyone seemed to not know what to say. But the people who were not present in the village group started discussing the video. "This video of staged accident fraud looks so much like our village entrance. Could it be that Grandma Go in our village has started staged accident fraud again? Has the owner of this BMW been rescued? Is he okay?" From the chat records in the village group, I finally understood why Grandma Lillian asked that extra question. It turns out that this is all because my grandma is an expert at staged accident fraud. When slipping and falling on a snowy day, whoever helps her up won't be able to leave without paying 5 yuan. When fainting from heat stroke in summer, whoever gives her a bottle of Huo Xiangzenki water has to pay her another 3 yuan for medical expenses for spoiling her stomach. But according to the village group, these are all small things for Grandma. In the past, Grandma staged accident fraud luxury cars. As soon as she fell in front of the car, she forced the car to stop. Then she and her son would team up. That is, my uncle would bring his brothers from society and say that they saw with their own eyes that the car hit someone. They said that in those years, relying only on staged accident fraud, my uncle earned more than 200 yuan. 18. This also solved another question of mine. No wonder my uncle was so good at staged accident fraud in my previous life. It turns out that he and Grandma had cooperated so many times before. As for why I didn't know it all, it's because since I can remember, my uncle and Grandma were forced to stop staged accident fraud. The first reason is that because they frequently did it nearby, it led to an increase in traffic accidents in the surrounding area and attracted the attention of the police. They were detained and warned. The second reason is that if you often walk by the river, how can you not get your shoes wet? Pretending to be hit by a car every day. One day, Grandma was really hit. That car didn't see Grandma in front of it, and ran over Grandma's foot. Fortunately, Grandma reacted quickly and only broke her foot. Otherwise, she might have lost her life. Due to these factors combined, my uncle and Grandma were forced to change their occupations. After Grandma broke her foot, my mom also found out what Grandma was really doing. In order to make Grandma stop doing this, Mom paid for Grandma to find the best doctor to treat her foot injury. From then on, she transferred 6 yuan of living expenses to Grandma every month. So my mom is also the one with the strongest reaction at this moment. She knelt in front of Grandma, and tears rolled down from the corners of her eyes like big jade beads. Mom, didn't you promise me that you wouldn't do this again? I transfer money to you on time every month. Why are you doing this again? I am also curious why Grandma suddenly resumed her old profession, but I can't ask. I vaguely feel that this matter may be related to my uncle. The villagers couldn't help but open their mouths. Aunt Go, your daughter is so filial. You usually have no shortage of food and drink. Why are you doing this? If you are short of money and have something wrong, you can tell the villagers. Everyone in the neighborhood can help you. Why do you have to do this? Under continuous questioning, Grandma stretched out her arm and took her mother's hand and said softly, "Daughter, your younger brother said he wants to buy a new car." Hearing this answer, my heart trembled. Is this really spoiling a child? Is like killing a child? In order to buy a car for her son, she staged accident fraud by accident and killed her own son. Hearing this answer, my mom cried even more bitterly. Mom, you are so confused. Seeing my mom crying all the time, Grandma impatiently stood up. What are you crying for? Your younger brother wants to buy a car. What's the meaning of just crying? Now that your wings are hardened, you are against your younger brother. Every month, you just send back enough money for living. Have you ever thought that your younger brother is a man? How can he be satisfied with driving that crappy car in terms of face? 19. Grandma ignored the confused look on my mom's face and continued talking on her own. Just because you didn't pay for your younger brother to buy a car, he is in a bad mood. At this point, he still hasn't come home. While saying this, Grandma also looked towards the entrance of the village, as if she just noticed the onlookers during the process of looking. Seeing so many people, Grandma turned around and pulled my mother and said, "Get up quickly. Don't cry here. Family ugliness should not be made public. If you cry here, everyone will see that it is your younger brother who loses face." Seeing Grandma's crazy words, my mom cried almost to the point of fainting. My dad quickly went up and hugged her. Grandma, on the other hand, turned her head and called Tyler again. "Good grandson. Don't play anymore. Come home with Grandma for dinner. When your dad comes back and sees you not eating and playing outside, he will scold you again." The villagers silently made way for Grandma. Although Grandma almost did all kinds of bad things. Today she lost her son because of her own actions. The villagers couldn't judge anything anymore. It seems pitiful, but it's really hateful. So they all tacitly remained silent and said nothing. But children's reactions are often the most simple. Hate is hate. And love is love. Tyler refused Grandma's touch. Don't touch me. You killed Dad. I don't want you anymore. You are a bad grandma. Grandma didn't care about anything. She grabbed Tyler's arm and walked in the direction of home. Tyler is now 8 or 9 years old and not small in size. After a little struggle, he broke free from Grandma. Bad person. Don't touch me. You are a murderer. Give me back my dad. After breaking free, Tyler raised his fist and hit Grandma one by one. Grandma was pushed back step by the punches. But she didn't dodge at all. She just stared at her empty palm in a daze. After a long time, a sentence dropped from her mouth. Gone. Everything is gone. After saying this, Grandma turned around and walked towards the entrance of the village. Seeing that something was wrong, my parents went up and stopped Grandma. But they can stop her for 1 day but not for 1,000 days. In the end, Grandma left. Later, at my uncle's funeral, Grandma disappeared again, when there were many people and no one was watching for a moment. My parents looked for her all over the village. In the end, it was the police who called us. Grandma was hit by a car on the nearby road and died after being sent to the hospital for treatment. 20 people who die suddenly cannot have their corpses kept for too long. So Grandma had to be buried the next day after the car accident. This also led to insufficient repair time to restore Grandma's body. In the end, Grandma was buried in a semi-compressed state. The gift money received at the 2 funerals was all compensated by my parents to the driver who hit Grandma as mental damage compensation. Also at Grandma's funeral, Tyler, my uncle's son, was taken away by his biological mother. That woman divorced my uncle because of domestic violence and wanted custody of the child. But she was threatened by my uncle and Grandma, and didn't even dare to visit the child on weekdays. Now that Grandma and my uncle are gone, she can finally see her child again. Under her teaching, a year later, Tyler completely changed. He was no longer as wild and unreasonable as when he was by Grandma's side. By the way, it can't be called Tyler anymore. He changed his name to Todd and followed his mother's surname. The grandson who was held in Grandma's hands has nothing to do with her from now on. However, Grandma and my uncle still left some inheritance. A rural old house and 50 yuan in cash. My parents originally wanted to give the money to Todd for school later. But Todd's mother didn't want this extorted money and didn't want to have anything to do with my uncle's family anymore. Although my uncle also owed my parents money, my parents still donated the cash to charity. As for that rural old house, my mom planned to sell it. Because when she lived with my uncle and grandmother before, she didn't have a single happy memory. She only remembered that she seemed to have been beaten in every corner of the house. So whenever my mom saw the house, she was only annoyed. But before my mom could sell that house, something surprising happened. Some areas of the village were included in the planning, and were going to be demolished. And the old house left by Grandma was just among them. According to reliable news, the compensation for demolition will never be less than 2 million. You know, Grandma risked her life to staged accident fraud with my uncle so many times and only earned 200 yuan. The villagers all sighed. If only Richard and his mother had waited for half a year, this 2 million is enough for them to spend a lifetime. To put it bluntly, it's retribution. They did all kinds of bad things for money. If any of them had a little kindness, they wouldn't die. Now that old house finally created some happy memories for my mom. With more than 2 million in compensation, my parents added some money and bought a new large flat for our family. The house has good ventilation from north to south and a superior geographical location. There is a park next to it. My parents will take a walk with the dog in the park next to it every night. I am a little distressed. Next to this community is the best junior high school in the city. My academic pressure has increased by more than a little. But I still have to read books if I should. After all, if you don't read enough books, you may be like my uncle, and not even know how to escape when disaster strikes. So, reading really can change destiny. Tomorrow, I must read books thoroughly. Let's play first tonight.